Welcome back, everyone, to the Abundance Formula podcast. I'm so excited for today's guest. It is Taylor Frazier. She is a coach with First Form as well as a pro at sales. She has an amazing fitness platform on Instagram and other platforms. She has coached me a lot so far with First Form. She does everything from, of course, product like information to social media templates to all, like she's a pro at everything. So I'm so excited she's here. She's also a mother and a wife. So she has so many different areas we can dive into in this episode that I know you guys as listeners would have questions about. So thanks so much for being here today, Taylor.
Well, thank you so much. This has been such a great opportunity just to connect with your community and hopefully just impact at least one person. So that's always what I do. Anytime I'm doing anything, I'm like, if I could just help one person in their life and get through their situations, then it's worth it.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, let's start out just telling everyone kind of your backstory and how you've arrived at where you are today, both in your personal life and professionally, so everyone can get to know you a little bit.
Yeah. So kind of a quick overview of where I started to where I'm at now, because I am 31 now, so I'm in my 30s, which I love. I think it's better because you have a better understanding of who you are. You've been through lessons, you don't care as much. But where I started, I grew up in a really small town in Oklahoma. Grew up in a trailer and didn't really see a lot of success around me. And I knew that I wanted to get into the fitness space because that's something that you did touch on when I was a little girl, because I saw how it impacted my own mom. And I would see how people take advantage of people that want to make a change. And obviously, we can get into that deeper, but I knew that that's what I want to do at 8 years old, which is crazy. It's a crazy thought, but I didn't know how to do it. Social media, being a social media influencer was not a thing. Like now, there's so much more opportunity. And I just didn't know what that looked like, but I knew I'd be willing to figure it out. And so that's kind of always the mindset I've had since I was very young, very competitive. And then I actually dropped out of college to just go pursue it, right? And it was hard. I got a lot of no's throughout the years. Found First Form, learned a ton, and started working in that direction and started building my career inside of learning how to do sales correctly, which is not taking advantage of people and truly helping and doing so in a way that helps you impact your life as well. So now I've been able to, take my family on a vacation, which is insane because we didn't take vacations growing up, right? And I get to, work from home, which I'm so grateful for with my little baby, and have a life with my husband, who's also my high school sweetheart. Big part of my story and who I am, has made a huge impact on my life. And then I've also, in the last few years, I've faced a lot of adversity that, I feel I see anyways, take a lot of people down through like injuries in their own fitness journey. I've had, multiple surgeries and injuries. I've, lost my mom to leukemia at when she was only 47. And, building your career, building your family, trying to build your life while life constantly throws you down in a number of different ways. It can be really challenging for people. And I've always thought, well, why quit now? Like, it's not going to help my mom. And what I've learned is through everything I've been through, I can now help other people get through at least a similar thing. And so that's something I always kind of lean into now, is gaining new perspectives, helping people, become resilient. Resilient is a huge word for me and like things I've been through. And I know for everybody else, like that could be something that they resonate with, a number of different things. And just never giving up on like what you actually want to pursue. So that's kind of where I'm at now. There's a lot of things in between, but that's kind of the overview of it all.
Yeah, that's so incredible. I love that's one of my favorite parts about this podcast is because when people see just stuff from social media or Instagram, they're like, oh, great, this amazing following, all this great stuff, success. But like, it's easy for them to say, well, it just somehow it came easier for them than it is for me. Like they're hitting all these roadblocks and having all these obstacles and all these deep moments of sorrow. And somehow they feel a little isolated. Like maybe that's just happened to me. Maybe I'm doing it all wrong. Maybe I'm in the wrong place or whatever. But they don't realize like actually behind the curtain for all these people that have created success themselves, they're hitting those same kinds of things, even if they're in different categories of life things. And then what has made them different then to not give up? What has made them push through anyways? And so I love to highlight that on here, be like, oh no, they've been through a lot of stuff and this is how they got through it. Here's some of the things they clung to. And so I love that you're sharing that kind of stuff. So let's definitely go back to a few different points I loved from your story. So what were you originally in college pursuing?
So I knew that I wanted to be in fitness, like in some way, but I didn't think I could be like in small town Oklahoma, like most like social media. I downloaded
Yeah.
Instagram in college, you know.
Yeah.
I didn't think that was possible. So the next idea I had was physical therapy, which ironically, going through plenty of physical therapy later in life. But I loved it. I loved that's what I was going to school for. I actually worked in a clinic and I got to be really hands-on with like the training side of it because obviously I didn't have the actual physical therapy. So I got to, watch the clients get stronger and build their confidence and they'd come back each week and that was so fulfilling. And I remember I changed my mind a million times of like what I want to do with my life as we all do. But everything just kept pulling me back to helping people that in that way of like quality of life. And ultimately, I finally decided like this is what I meant to do. I don't even care if I had to make a lot of money or not. I want what's most rewarding to me is like getting to help people like become their best self and see how it affects like their relationships and their quality of life and their confidence and stuff like that.
And so when you stepped away from college, did you start out being a personal trainer? How did some of it look like to getting you to first form and then even first form? I'm sure people don't really know. There's several different layers. You can kind of be an affiliate or you can be sponsored and you kind of work your way up. How did that of stuff look like? So I think that's what people are most afraid of. It's like, I mean, there's challenges once you've hit a more successful point. They're different. They're just different. But I think that initial leap is the first problem for people. They're like, well, there's so many unknowns. What am I going to do? What am I going to start with? What could it look like? What did it sort of look like for you in getting to that place?
So you mentioned a great point as far as people think that it just comes easy. They might see me now talking on here or talking on my Instagram story and putting myself out there. Guys, I was literally afraid to order my own pizza because my mom, like she like in a great way, but she was such a mom. Like I wouldn't even make my own doctor's appointment. It's like, mom, you got to make me a doctor's appointment. Like when I was like, as I was getting older. So I did not have a lot of confidence. But what I always remind people is your drive and your passion has to be more important to you than your insecurities and your like what your fear is, right? And if you are willing to just get uncomfortable, you can truly become whoever it is that you want to become. And you'll learn there's going to be awkward moments. There's going to be a lot of no's. So that's where I started is I had no experience. I dropped out of college. I went and got my certified personal training and it's like you have to have a job to get experience, but you have to have experience to get a job. And so I got told no and no. I applied to almost every gym that I could find. Everyone told me no. And so I just kept trying and I started posting on Facebook, and like saying, hey, I got my personal training certification if anybody wants help. And a coach at my old high school, again, small town life, he was like, well, actually, I run this boot camp in the summer and you could come help me. And I was probably 21, again, public speaking was my absolute like biggest fear. I hate feeling stupid. So if you are listening to this and you have thought those same things or you're thinking about what you want to accomplish in your life and what the fears and like insecurities holding you back, just know that you can overcome them. Because my first time doing that, my voice was shaking, but you got to be willing to do things even when your voice shakes, right? So I took that position and it wasn't convenient. So I woke up at 4 a.m. to drive an hour to go do this boot camp because it was the only person giving me an opportunity. Made $25 a class. So really, as far as like gas and stuff, it kind of like equaled out. But I wanted the experience, right? So I would do that from 4 to 5 in the morning, and then or I'm sorry, 5 to 6 I would teach the class and then I would train myself. I would maybe try to post something on social media, cringy as ever, didn't know what I was doing, but I was willing to do it. And then I would go work. I worked at a bank for 3 years. During this time I was a bank teller making $10 an hour. I had to make money, I had to pay the bills. And then after class after I would get off at like 5 or 6, I would drive 30 minutes back to the boot camp, teach the evening class, drive an hour home and get home at like 10 p.m. And I did that every day, Monday through Friday, um, for a while. And I did that for a long time. And then I was on the commutes, I would listen to podcast. I would listen to things that would teach me. I just was so like a sponge, like I want to learn, I want to learn. And again, I was like 21, 22 at this time. So I basically took any opportunity in that regard I coach people for free. I just kept putting myself out there, and I finally found a gym that was opening in the area. And I walked in and I said, here's why you need to hire me. I like didn't apply. I literally went in there and I introduced myself and I was like, I'll help you fix this place up for free. I don't care, but you need to hire me because of these things. And they did. They gave me a shot. And that's really where I started making a name for myself as far as like in my community. Because I had gained the confidence from doing the boot camp, right? Of like being scared and being like, okay, it's not so bad. And then at that time, that's when I actually applied to, I saw the owner of First Forum talk about the mission and the values. And I really resonated with that so deeply because where my passion comes from isn't about like, oh, I just want to see people get, or I want to be lean and I want views on Instagram because that didn't exist whenever I started. Where my passion comes from is, I remember my mom struggled so bad with being overweight. No one took the time to help her. People would take advantage of her. I mean, you've probably all been in this experience, whether it's you or a family member. Take this drop under your tongue and you won't be hungry all day, or put this wrap on, you're going to lose 45 pounds. So no one actually took the time to care and help her. And I saw that from a really young age. And I knew that I wanted to be different. And First Form was the first company that I was like, oh, they're different too. They really do care about people. And so that's what got me involved. So I literally applied to work for the company as a Legionnaire in the very entry level position. Bought my own products, didn't have any kind of sponsorship, didn't really know what I was doing, and wasn't actually successful at first because I had to build it like anything else, right? But I kept showing up, and I got to the point where 2 years in, and mind you, I say all this, my husband's been right by my side through all of it. Like, we're both working 2, 3 jobs. He's just as involved. Like he worked at First Form the whole time with me. Like we both got hired on. And then they called us one day and they were like, hey, would you guys want, this was 2 years in to being in the entry level position, working 2 other jobs, right? They called us and they were like, would you guys want to come work at First Form and teach people? Building momentum in the fitness space in our community. And I was building my brand slowly, but I was doing it, kind of figuring it out. I was about 24 at this time. And we were like, oh my gosh, we're moving to the big city of St. Louis. Like, this is a big deal. And we lived in, like, I'm saying a 900 square foot house. We didn't even have anything worth bringing. So we packed up, we had 2 dogs at the time. He took one dog, I took the other dog, and we just packed up our clothes, what could fit in our vehicles. And in 3 weeks, we moved to St. Louis in an apartment that we got online, didn't even see it yet. And we slept on the floor for the first couple of days until we could go get a mattress. And that's kind of how it all started.
Uh-huh. Oh, I love that. And see, again, that's where I just want people to hear that all those little things, no, the sleeping on the floor and the stuff, and especially at this point too, because like you said, when we were in that phase, Instagram wasn't a thing. Sharing those moments in that way, if you wanted to, weren't an option. And so you've kind of already gone through some of them. Not that you don't have them in different ways now, but you can't back show those parts of it. So for people to verbally hear, like, okay, if they're the ones sitting on the mattress floor right now, like you're not like abnormal. Like that is what it takes in the beginning. It's very rare. I think people too, now that we have social media, I think it discourages people actually a lot because we think or we hear these stories of, oh, someone just posted 1 or 2 videos and now they're viral and now they're all the things. And they just think, oh, it's going to happen that way. Or for the people that are successful, it must have happened that way. And it's like, no, most of the people who actually are in a successful place now, it took years of getting there, of consistency, showing up, building slowly, authentically, and it's a good place to be. And you probably wouldn't trade it in any other way because now you've had all these experiences to relate to more people that feel that way and can relate to that part of your story. And that's what's inspiring to me. I'm always like, that's a part to me that's like, if you're reading a New York Times bestselling book, it's not the fact that, oh, they made millions of dollars. It's like hearing the mattress stories. That's where you get fired up for them to win and even care, So I think that's huge for people to know. And specifically with fitness, because this is something I'm personally passionate about, and I love that you're probably passionate about it too. Fitness is one example, but there's plenty of other genres that, especially I think in our generation, I'm 35, so we're pretty close in age, but Instagram wasn't a thing and whatever. So if you are passionate about something for career or long-term, like fitness or something like that, or art or whatever the thing was, to at least where I grew up in people that I was around, that was kind of like, well, that's a great hobby, but that's not a real job, and it was not something you were empowered on, like, go for it, like, do it, see where you can take it, how many people can you help? Like, even being a personal trainer was just like, well, that's something maybe you do as a little piddly job like you would at McDonald's,
Mm-hmm.
And so it
Mm-hmm.
was hard to have that inspiration. Like, if you felt inside, like, man, I could really do this and somehow make a really big difference. But especially without social media, then you don't really know what that's going to look like. How can people, especially now that we do have those things, start wrapping their minds around a process? Because you're so good with frameworks and process. If there's something that they're passionate about, no matter what it is, and they would like to monetize it, they're in a place where you're like, nothing else is really hitting this. It's something that they probably need to go out and do on their own. And of course, utilize every avenue from in person to online to build that behind that passion. What are some tips you give to people that have something like that they want to start building?
Oh, I love this question. And this is so important for people to listen to because you might think, well, no one's going to be interested in this, or I don't know enough because it's so easy for me. Well, if it's easy for you, that probably means that you have a passion and a gift for it that you can teach other people. So there is so much value in that, whatever your thing is. And this is something like fitness, right? Like we hear all the information out there. You think, oh my gosh, it's so oversaturated. There's so many, programs and so many people out there. Yet there's still so many people that need help. And maybe it's your story, the way you explain things, your human connection, your sense of humor, whatever it might be that makes that person actually make a change. So whatever it is, if it is art, if it is, cars, there is a community and an audience for everything, and there's an opportunity for everything, but you always have to be willing to, again, put yourself out there, be authentic to you. Don't try to like, you can replicate, like when you're saying frameworks and stuff, like you can see like, okay, I see that this like idea works for this person. How can I make it my own? But making it your own is the key indicator, because especially even with AI and all these things coming out and so many other people doing it, that makes you maybe think, oh, there's not room for me. You are what makes you different. So you have to be authentic to you. And like, I've been doing this for 10 years. So what's been authentic to me has evolved, going into motherhood. I didn't think I would change so much, and I have. So I have to let my authenticity evolve with my journey of life, and it's going to let some people go along the way, but it's going to gain people that are more in line with who I am now, and that's okay. And maybe they'll become moms one day and they'll jump back into my little world. So staying authentic to you, and then just being willing to do it so many times and it not work, and keep trying, to where it becomes undeniable or unreasonable that you will see that success, because it really comes down to reps. Anything, right? If you want to get better at free throws, I grew up playing sports, so basketball, like I shot like 100 free throws a day. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
with reps over and over and over. Guess how many times I missed? A lot. But that's how you get better. So stay authentic to who you are and what you want to do, and do it so many times that it's unreasonable that you won't be successful.
I love that. That's awesome. And tying it into specifically, well, let's do two different things. So, especially if someone's got, because there are a lot of early entrepreneurs that listen to this, whether it's product or whatever the thing is they want to launch or do, or that they are currently doing. First Form teaches so good on this. And of course, you're one of those teachers on, there's definitely the in-person side of it that you want to maximize. And then there's, of course, the online side of it that you want to maximize. As far as in-person, and I'd love to hear how this was before and is different now that you've had
Mhm.
Lily. It's Lily, right?
Yes, yes,
Okay, that's
Lily.
what I thought.
Yeah.
How it was before and now, as far as how do you go out and keep making constant new connections and adding to that funnel of new people that are in-person referrals or in-person connections that spreads the news of what you're doing. And then after you talked about that, how you started doing that online.
Mhm. So, do you want me to talk about in person first and then
In person
online?
first.
In
Yeah.
person first, okay. Because my brain immediately went to online.
Yeah.
So one way is, I mean, like just getting out in your community. So a couple things I've done recently is, like for example, I will take the stroller and take Lily out. One, it's great for Lily. She loves being outside, but we walk every single day. In that time frame, so my husband is also a personal trainer, and he actually runs boot camps in our garage. Because we're out with the baby every single day and people can see that consistency, we've started so many conversations in our neighborhood just from that alone. And they've seen like me in my progress, like I'm getting more fit now that I'm 9 months postpartum. And so moms will literally stop. I've had them stop their car driving home. I see you walking every single day. What do you do? Like, what are you guys doing? Like, I see you guys working out, like things like that. So we try to get involved in our community and just like meet people, make friends. And at the end of the day, like our intention is to genuinely connect with them and help them. And then if they want to do his programs or come to boot camp or even just take our advice, like, they followed us on Instagram and now they watch my content. So it kind of like ties in together. We've also we did post about this online, so it kind of goes in hand, but we've done meetups where we do like walks and rucks, and we had like 3 or 4 sets of like strollers at like
Mhm.
a Saturday, like, mom ruck or whatever. It was mom and dad. There was a lot of dads there too. But things like that. So like getting out in your community, really just meeting people, making friends, and whatever stage of life you're in, that's gonna, be able to evolve in that way. You're gonna find people that are interested in the same things you are, essentially.
Mhm. And that's one thing that, and of course, this will translate into the online stuff, but that is one thing that I really liked about First Form as a company is they don't have this Slack mentality, so they're not even pushing their affiliates or their sponsored people or their athletes. They're not pushing people to be like, and as soon as somebody stops you to meet you, tell them about the stuff, hit them with all the things.
Hmm.
So like, no, make the relationship first.
Yes.
They're not like rush into that sale. They're like, no, like that comes later. Like you don't need to rush
Hmm.
to that. I mean, unless they asked you directly about it out of the gate, but like get to know that person. What are they up to? What are their
Hmm.
goals? What are their things, and actually care about it? And that other stuff will come organically later, and can be mentioned as you're literally drinking your protein shake, or they
Hmm.
ask how you've gotten fit, what kind of things are you doing besides just walking, and authentically you use this stuff, and so authentically you would tell them these are the things you use and why you use them. And so I think that's a really cool thing, that I'm sure from those in-person things you're actually forming real relationships, which
Hmm.
goes back to that true care factor of actually, if somebody wants to change their health in some way, like you actually care about that and they can
Hmm.
feel that. That's not a fake thing. So I think that's a
Hmm.
really cool part. So online, that's definitely a forte of yours now, which is so cool to hear that you were like scared to talk about things at first and then now you're online talking about things and have built this great following. So help us with the online game. I know that's the big struggle for everybody.
Yes. Well, first I will say, not everyone's going to like you, especially online. Everyone's got an opinion, right? So you have to be okay with that. If you're going to put yourself out there, like be true, like I said, be true to who you are, be authentic. But again, reps are going to help you get better with this. But when looking to connect with people, the first thing you got to do is put out there what you're interested in. So I mentioned a couple other things of like, different, like I say everything's an opportunity because I look at like connecting with other people. So when I was going through my injuries, I documented that process. I was like, okay, I tore my ACL, I tore my Achilles. I'm down, like people, but I'm like, here's what I'm doing mentally, here's what I'm doing nutritionally, here's what I'm doing training. And so many people still to this day will reach out if they have an injury. I'm the one they reference because they saw me go through that. So they have that connection. Same thing when I lost my mom. I talked about grief. I obviously, like, I don't share everything on the internet, but motherhood stuff, like any I am going through whatever thing in life I'm going through, I share in a way that's focused based on here's how I'm getting through it, and here's some tips that I have. Here's just hey, if you feel this way, I feel this way too, and that builds so much trust, and trust is one of the number one things you can is important to build online if you want to grow impact, if you want to grow influence, if you want to grow your sales. Building trust and relationships come first because everything after that like is so much more authentic and natural, and it doesn't feel weird, doesn't feel cheesy, doesn't feel pushy. It genuinely just feels like you're helping a friend out. So that's what I would recommend is just whatever like journey you're going through right now, document it, share it. Think about the people that you like and how can you replicate that for your audience.
hmm And so, as your audience began to grow, how long would you say, just because again, I know people are curious about timelines, from where you started in your just fitness stuff, like you launched your Instagram or whatever, you just got in college, from there to like now? which I forget however many times, not quite 10 years, but whatever, or maybe it
Yeah.
was, but what was the
So
time span of momentum?
I've probably posted consistently since 2017. But I wasn't very good. I just was consistent.
Yeah, yeah, that's
And
key.
then I would say I've been posting better content. Like I always am looking to improve, but I posted better content the last 5 years. Would be, I would say that's when I've grown the most. Would be the last 5 years, which seems like a long time. And honestly, if I was to grade myself, I'd be like, man, you should have grown more that time. But I don't care. Like I mean, I do care in the sense of I want to reach and help more people, but I'm not chasing that instant virality. Or, first of all, because then you get like, you guys see how it goes. People are crazy. But,
Mhm.
um, but I think what has helped me maintain this long term is I see this happening all the time. People will blow up, either their business will blow up, their social media will blow up, and then they don't have any strategies. They don't have the grit. They don't have the why. They don't understand, like, it's not always perfect. So then the moment that they're not getting all this success, they quit. So if you don't develop those things, then you're never going to be able to grow something that has a true foundation and a long-term success, which I'm care more about, is the long-term
Mhm.
success and the sustainability of it versus like the instant like gratification.
Mhm. Yeah. And how do you, as your audience grew, how did you still maintain feeling like in touch with that audience? So I know I hit a point with like when mine kind of was really growing, which it's not as big as
Hmm.
yours, but when started really growing like past the 10K mark, I was kind of like, I mean, there's people that are typical interactors, and then you gain a lot of new people who don't actually know you, but they start following you somehow, and
Hmm.
they're kind of watchers. How do you convert them into being interactive, or take time to feel like to get to know some of those people, or do you do that? Because that can get really overwhelming. I know for a while I was trying to like think, okay, I know I need to interact with some of these new people for them to kind of feel like this isn't just a page, but a relationship space or a community. But then you're
Hmm.
going through, and when those followers are so many, you're like, okay, this is this is a lot. Like, I don't know if I have time to do this in my day, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
How did you approach it that way to keep it a community feel and not just watchers?
That's a great point, because this is actually a question I teach a lot of social media, and this is a very common question: is how to increase engagement. And one, like, the better quality content and the more consistent you can be, the more you could get better at like hooks and calls to action and things like that. Like, those are all, like, I could dive into that rabbit hole. But what I think a good tactical thing that the you listening can actually go apply is when you are trying to get your audience to engage with you, think of giving them things to engage with. So for example, stories. I am very intentional about, when I was transitioning my following from, like, I used to only post fitness stuff, like young 20s, like motivation, like super hardcore. I'm not and I realized I'm so, like, if you know me in real life, I am like, I do have deep like purpose, and like I am like, I love deep conversations, but most of the time I'm just goofy and silly. So I started showing that side of me, and then people started like liking me as just a person and not just what I'm selling or motivating them. So it wasn't like the short term. So I think sharing more of who you actually are, like the things that make you weird, and the weird things that you do make you special, and that's what's going to get people to, like, they might not respond to your product that you're talking about, or hey, I'm taking this many clients, but if you say, if you just show your goofy side, they'll be more likely to respond to that. But I'm very intentional with, like, I'll do like polls and like stickers that you can use in your stories, but I don't make it generic. I try to ask like very specific questions for the audience that I want to build a relationship with. So for example, when I became a mom, I'm like, hey, I think Lily's teething. Moms, help me out. Like, what do I need to look for? What products do I need to get? Like, and then I start so many conversations, because people are willing, like, you're giving them something. They don't know what to say when you post this. And I'm not saying this to you, but I'm saying
Yeah.
this, I see this a lot. People will post a selfie of them at the gym. I don't know what to say to that. Like, okay,
Right.
cool. So you got to give them something to engage with. And then it's being very strategic about who do you want to engage with and build a personal relationship with them. So then when you do post your product, guess what? They've already built trust with you. They already like you as a person. Now they're more willing to ask you or try out the product that you're looking for. So it all kind of goes together. So that's kind of how, especially over the years, I've been able to keep a strong community, strong engagement. It is a lot of work, but you have to know why you're doing the work. Like if you're doing the work, like, oh, I feel like I need to be, answering my DMs. This is another thing to do versus like I know people that they treat their DMs like, hey, this is part of my job. And then they were able to sell $100,000 in product in a month. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
and they said it comes from the relationships they built in the DMs.
Right, for sure. I think that's huge because it's like it's one thing for the follower number to be there, but really it's you want it to be the right ones, especially if
Right.
you're using it as a business platform. It doesn't, like you just it need to make that kind of connection for the right people for
Hmm.
that to ever come through to anything monetary for sure. So looking to attract, I think that was huge. Just in the way you ask a question, is this bringing in the kind of person and building the kind of community that I want?
Hmm.
Because then that becomes easier to maintain because like you said it comes natural. It's like this is who I'd be friends with, this is the people I would help naturally, so then they're going to be here. I think that's a really good point for people to think about. It's not just put up a poll like, is it nice in your area today? Like, you know
Right. More
'cause-
intentional. And I don't get
Mhm.
any, like, over the last, 5 years, 10 years that, I've been putting myself out there, I don't get any, maybe one, a handful of times I could tell you of a creepy message I've gotten or like a hater. Like,
Mhm.
I don't get them, like, ever. So, and I've been doing this very consistently for a long time. So if you do it with intention, you attract the right
Mhm.
person.
Yes, I think that's awesome. That's really cool. um One other thing I know that people struggle with, so they're like, okay, especially online, wanting to build out their dream, whatever that is. So to do that, give a couple strategies. Like I know we've talked about batching content before. A lot of
Hmm.
people might have heard that, but they're like, okay, you're a busy mom. You've got so like how do you plug that into batch photos or batch videos or plan what the content could be or even get ideas of the content and make sure it posts up there consistently. You don't forget it. What are some of your tips and tricks for that so that you can stay really consistent and you're not like, oh shoot, I forgot to post all this week. Now what'll I post? And because that I think is where people get the ick about social media as a business platform or a free marketing platform is feeling so overwhelmed. They're just in a chaos space because they've not pre-thought about everything intentionally, like you're saying.
And it can become overwhelming. And then it's
Hmm.
just like, then it's not sincere. It feels forced. And when it feels forced, that's when it feels icky. And people, like the audience can tell, like it just doesn't result that you're looking for. And now that I have a very demanding job and a very demanding baby, just 24/7. So what I'll try to do is I try to lately even come up with like a series idea, okay? Because what that does is that will give you, like, if you know what to do and you don't have to think about it as much, that'll make it so much easier. So think of a series that you can do. So like I just played Deal or No Deal with my husband, and this is a series on our page, and it is like not every video is done great, but there's been a few videos that have done really well. And every day I wrote 10 things down that he liked, and then he opened up an envelope every day. And we don't have childcare, so I literally held her while we filmed it, and then I edit it at night when she is sleeping or like during one of her naps or something. That's when I'll go to edit. And that's how I get it to work. But I didn't have to think about what I was going to film that day. I just film it. And then I also am like, okay, I want to make sure that I'm hitting on like fitness at least once a week, right? Because that's a piece of my brand. So I look at, like, you could try a few different things out, and then if something does well, recreate it. So a lot of times people overcomplicate. Like I constantly need new content. I constantly need new ideas. And you don't, because guess what? You're going to get new people that have never seen your content, and you're going to get people that forget about your content or don't care that you reshared it. So like I took one time, I didn't have any, like I was like, oh, I didn't film anything. I took two old videos, one of us of us working out before baby, one of us working out after baby. And I literally used chat GPT and I was like, help me create
Yeah.
a, like shareable POV, right? And like POV, we promised each other we'd work out, or we'd stay fit after we had a baby. And that video has been one of the most popular videos that has grown I mean, and that one's almost at 1 million views, and I still get shares about it that I posted a couple months ago. And I just used two old videos. So don't overcomplicate it. Think of like series ideas, recreate things, repurpose things with better intention. And that will help you stay consistent.
Hmm. With your content, do you kind of just focus it on, again, thinking of your target audience and thinking about what you want to post, or do you come at some of your videos or whatever thinking about what the supposed new way of doing it is that registers with the algorithm. Like, do you think about it from that lens, or both, or kind of
Mhm.
just, again, staying as most authentic of just thinking what your audience would want to see? Because it can get overwhelming too, thinking of that, like, oh, this is
Yeah.
how long they say it should be right now, and looking for the right trending audio, and it being blah blah
Mhm.
blah, can be a whole separate part of it.
I always think of algorithm as, okay, if this, no matter if there's no trending audio, if this gets somebody to watch the video and engage with it. So again, if it's what the viewer wants to see, it will, like if they're watching it and sharing it, they're going to give it out to more people because they want people on the platform. So that I always try to make it about the viewer and what's going to get them to share this. So think about like what's going to get this to get them to share this video with their friend or their sister or their husband, right? Because if you just make it about you, then they might be, again, the selfie in the mirror. They don't know what to say to that. They're going to be like, okay, scroll past. So that's where I put like that video did so well, the POV one, because that's something that I would send to Jeff. Like, oh, look,
Mm-hmm.
that we could be like this couple, or I want to be like this couple when we um so I try to think of it that way. And then like the deal or no deal, I'm like, okay, this gives someone a reason to come back to our, now we're on the forefront of their mind because they want to see the curiosity. So emotion, curiosity, value, relatability, those things are what I think about when I'm trying to think of, okay, creating content. And then it has to be what you enjoy as well. Like I love doing like those videos, like the deal or no deal, because we enjoy, I would play that without the camera, you know what I
Yeah,
mean, and we
yeah.
we would be the same without the camera, and that's what creates the best content. So think about things that you would typically like, don't force it. So like if you don't like recipes, like if you don't make these fancy recipes, don't make that a part of your content because that's not true to who you are. So that's going to be more difficult to do and it's not going to resonate as well. So those are some of the things I think about as far as like kind of a combination of what you asked, as far as like what I
Mm-hmm.
enjoy, but really prioritizing the viewer. And I don't necessarily care as much about like certain time or trending
Yeah.
audio because like I've had a video, and it's, I'll throw trending audio if it makes sense, but I've
Yeah.
had videos hit millions of views just because people liked them, you know what I mean? So
Right.
that's kind of what and I not every video is going to be viral, so just be okay with that too.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's all really great tips, again, for people to think about. And a lot of times in a business that you're starting, a lot of time that person you're trying to help, it's you just a couple steps back or a couple years
Mhm.
ago, which makes it easier because then you're like, well, I know what would have been helpful. Or again, like you're saying, what would I share with my husband? What would I think is funny? Or what would I send to my sister? Or like that's your guidance. Like you don't have to research out what it could be. It's like it's all in there. You just have to be
Mhm.
intentional with thinking about why you're sending it. Why was it something that people would want to share? And that gets your creative juices going. So I think that's a really great idea. Awesome. Um, so jumping back to when you were talking about how you're trying to build all these things and your mom passes away, you've got all these different
Mhm.
injuries, all this stuff. So how do people not, because even in our normal daily life when we don't have all those things and you're really busy, your brains can want to be in overdrive with, okay,
Mhm.
now she's down for the nap, now I got to edit, now I got to, so how do people not give up on where they want to take their future and the mission of the people they want to help when they're in those really difficult spaces?
Mhm. So what has helped me is I always think like there's always, if you are come to the understanding that things are going to go wrong and you will face hardships. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And you get to make the choice of, am I going to let this bring me down? And then my life's going to continue to get more negative, or what can I do to create the life I want? And I think it's really important. And you listening might not have thought about this in a long time, but what do you want your life to look like in a year from now? What do you want your life to look like in 5 years from now? And a lot of times in my brain, even through the ups and the downs, it's not like I don't think, oh man, I wish this could happen. Why not? You only have one life. Why not try to make it happen? And what can you do today to make that happen? Because that's how you create the life that you want to live, right? And so I've created so much success through so much hardships and just really like I felt like life just kept kicking me down. Because something else I didn't mention in those few years was, I tore my ACL when my mom got diagnosed with leukemia. So I was rehabbing my knee, relearning how to walk, rebuilding. Um, and, injuries are just hard anyways. And then my mom's, fighting leukemia. And then when she was like almost back to like great again. And then she like went downhill real fast. So within the year of her being diagnosed, she passed away. So it all happened really quickly. And then right after that, a couple months later, I tear my Achilles. And I also through that time, or before that, I was my husband and I were trying to have a baby like a few months later. And so we went through over a year and a half of like infertility. And then I tear my Achilles. So I felt like my body was failing me. I felt like I was failing at my job. I felt like I was failing in a lot of different, and it was hard to keep showing up to your point on social media because I didn't want to be like, I'm like, dude, my life's just hard right now. Like, I don't have anything positive to say. That's what it kept like feeling like it was tearing me down. But I'm telling you guys, like I had my hard days, but I would always focus on, okay, well, where do I want to be a year from now? Because I don't want to be here. And you have to remind yourself of that. Like, what do you want your life to look like? My mom does not want me just to be sad the rest of my life. And like, what do I want my life to go backwards? No, I want to go forwards. And so I'm going to take this grief. I'm going to take these hardships. I'm going to take all this like frustration of life bringing me down. And there was a lot of loss. Like because I did mention we moved to St. Louis. Every time we came home for like the following year, it was for a funeral because I lost my mom and my grandma in the same week. Then I lost, my uncle. One of my friends from high school passed away. Like there was a lot of loss, and like that's just really hard to like keep, being positive. But I think surrounding yourself with the right people, right, that are constantly helping you, move forward and picking you up, and then reminding yourself of that vision of where do I want to be a year from now, and what can I do today to make that happen. And that doesn't mean doing a million things. That might be, okay, today I know in a year from now I want my life to look like this, so I just got to go for a 15-minute walk. Maybe I want to be healthier a year from now. Okay, well, I'm going to do a 15-minute walk today. I don't want to do it. I'm frustrated at my situation, but this is going to move me in the direction I want to go in, and forcing yourself to do that. And I will tell you, I went through a couple of years like where I hardly even remember some of it because I feel like it's just trauma. And I look back, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I was like, I mean, I would just, someone asked me how I was doing, I just cry, one of those. And I'm telling you now, motherhood is hard. It just was not as hard as the things that I'd already been through. And I'm so joyful. Of course I miss my mom, but my body is healed. I have a healthy baby. I have new struggles that now it helped me truly develop patience, appreciation. It's helped me become so much better of a mom. Like I don't think I would have been as good of a mom as I would have been if I never went through those things. I don't think I would have the same like appreciation and all those things that I've learned through that. So that's what I would remind yourself is like, how can I learn? How can I grow? How can I help other people? And how can I move in the direction of the life I want to, which is, it's not easy, but it's possible.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's so good. I love all that. And speaking of motherhood and you guys doing work together, both working full time,
Mm-hmm.
how can the parents, because it'll be for both either way, you know, continue with this new version of you, but also not lose the old parts you wanted to keep, continue to keep your dreams, if whether it's continuing a full-time career, whatever that looks like for everybody, but keep, especially if you do want a career, whether it's working part-time with then being a parent or full-time, but you still want to be that present parent too. How are
Mm-hmm.
you guys doing it? What stuff that you tell people when they ask, how are you doing it? How do you work together to make it happen? Because you obviously have to work together. It can't just be like, well, I have this to do. Well, I have this to do. Well, you can't just lay on the floor. Like we have to work together. So how do y'all
Mm-hmm.
work as a team to kind of, or with parents or whoever might help? How does that look for you guys?
Yeah. So this is what I say. I'm like, I don't know how people have more than one. And then this is crazy. But no, it's so funny because I ask everyone else, I'm like, how do you do it? Everyone's like, we're surviving. Like it's so
Yeah.
funny. Like we all just get it. But it's so true. I'll say like being in like a good teammate for your partner and knowing that we both have dreams, we both have things we want to do, we both, uh like it's not a matter of like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. It's like, how can we help each other achieve the things that we want to achieve? And so I mean, obviously you can do it on your part, but it's hopeful that you listening have a partner that will also be that way. I'm very thankful that, I've been with Jeff though for 14 years at this point. So we've built a strong foundation before we had a baby, but it's really about um, being intentional about what is your priorities, because what we have to do is he knows that I've got to do these certain things for work. And so like yesterday, he watched Lily while I worked, and then I watched Lily while he worked. And then we would take walks together. And so there's things that we try to do together, where we have that quality time with both of us with her. And it is hard. It is challenging. But communication and like being selfless and knowing that you cannot do everything that you want to do, and that's just you just can't do it all. Like if everything's a priority, then nothing's a priority, right? So you have to understand, well, what are your priorities? Because like for example, I have a YouTube video that I've been wanting to edit for a month and it just has not made the priority list, so I haven't been able to post, but I can post these little reels. Like these reels are a lot easier because I can edit on my phone versus I need my computer to edit the YouTube. So it just little things like that where you do have to make some sacrifices. You have to get clear on what the priority is, and you have to communicate and help each other out, like so you can both achieve the things that you want to achieve.
Yes, I think that's awesome. Then you don't build that bitterness between each other. Well, man, they're getting to go do all their
Yeah.
things, and I'm over here just in the trenches alone, or what? It just
Yeah.
helps, especially for your marriage at the end of the day, to also be strong and, respected between each other to have that combination, like you're saying. If and everybody's structure is different based on what people's jobs even are and whatnot. But I think the running theme of all of the things we've talked about is like intentionality. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you just see what happens every day, then you'll feel a little scroungy. But if you get really intentional, why are you doing the things? Where do you want to try to go? Who are you doing it with? And then
Yeah.
you have a lot more direction, and that feels a lot better. Even if things don't go according to plan, because they
Mm-hmm.
probably won't. But it's at least you've started the path, And so I think that's really good advice for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Well, before we dive into our last question, tell everybody where they can find you, follow you, be involved in the things you're doing.
Yeah. So on every platform, which I wish I could just make it my name, but I can't now. But it's Taylor Frazier, Frazier Fit. So Taylor Frazier Fit on every platform. Um, I'm on TikTok and Instagram, Facebook too, but that's just my name. And then we have a YouTube channel called Jeff and Tay, which stay tuned for whenever that's going to be revived. I want to get back on there. It's just taking a back seat for now. And I know it's just a small era of time. So that's something to keep in mind too, is, time flies by so fast. So that would be the main things to find me on.
Okay, awesome. Well, and we'll have all that in the show notes as well so that it's easy for people to click on. So the last question that I love to ask everybody, and it's so fun to compare just everybody's different answers. I feel like I should put it into a book one day, just people's answers on this thing, or like a journal thing for everybody to flip through. But what does living an abundant life mean to you? And if someone were to ask you how they can start to build an abundant life for themselves, what would you tell them?
Oh, that's a great question. This would make a good book
Yeah.
of everybody's answers.
Uh-huh.
I would say an abundant life for me, and what I would recommend to other people, is find things that truly fulfill you and chase them. And the reason I word it in that way is because, like, I don't think achieving the thing is really the most satisfying part. It's living a fulfilling life where you're constantly chasing the things that make you fulfilled. And I say that because I've achieved certain like goals, right? And then I'm like, okay, I'm here. Now what, right? And sometimes it's not what you think it's going to be. And I think losing family members, having a baby, like that's a big fulfillment for me, is time with my family. So I really prioritize that. But I also want a job. Like I've never, since I was a little girl, I never could see myself waking up, going to a job I hated, and being there all day, and then like can't wait for the evenings and weekends, and that's where I live a fulfilling life. Like that's, and I understand that's where you might have to be for a short period of time, because that's what I had to do, like when I was working all those extra jobs to get to a point where I got the experience and the opportunity to get to do what I wanted. So I'm not saying like, oh, you just go live your dream. Like you got to work to that point, but it's worth it. And I'd say chase the things that make you fulfilled, and just stay chasing those things, because there's always going to be new things. So I hope that's a that makes
Yes.
sense.
No, I
But
love
that's
it.
what I would say.
That's awesome. I love it.